welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I'm Matt Connerton, and of course, this is, as always, the Honorable Gary S. Hopper.
Hi, Matt. How are you doing, brother?
I'm all right. I'm doing okay.
Oh, crap. I can see myself. I think I forgot my makeup tonight.
Well, you know, and our makeup person didn't show up either.
They didn't show up again?
Our hair and makeup. And,
yeah,
I don't
terrible.
know what kind of operation they're running around.
I don't know.
Here,
it's pretty shoddy, I got to tell you, because I definitely need a lot of makeup.
Well, you know, and under these lights, I mean, you can see.
I know. I can.
You can see
I could shave right now if I had a shaver or something.
Right. Well,
they didn't show up either. The shaver isn't here. Hair and makeup isn't here.
What's the ones that do your toes and stuff?
The pedicurist.
Yeah.
Nobody.
I
think they're on strike.
It's got to be.
I think they're all union. They went on strike.
It's got to be, because I don't really look as wicked hot as I usually do.
Right.
No,
Everyone has an off day.
I am?
You're
That's really
absolutely
disturbing for you to say that, Tony.
Anyways, I think he likes you a little bit.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
But anyway, my guest tonight is the Honorable Tony Soltani. Tony, this is too funny, right? Tony is a troublemaker. He and I are like birds of a feather.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, it's wicked bad. I forget what it was. I think you were there. When did you first get elected? 98?
98.
98, okay, because he was there 2 years before me. And my freshman year, he's filing a complaint or a protest to the speaker. And he says, Gary, you got to sign off on this. You got to sign this. Then you got to go down to the other mic and read it, right? And he's my friend, so whatever. All right, so he gets up. I don't remember what the protest was.
Actually, it was on the passage of the income tax, and at the time we had a nominal control of the House, but the Democrats, along with the liberal Republicans, took a vote and won the imposition of an income tax, and the Republicans lined up on both sides to file a constitutional protest.
No, this wasn't that one.
It was that one. I remember it specifically.
Because it was just you and me.
No, it was a whole bunch of us.
No. This is a different one. This is a different one. This is one that I think it was over Gene Chandler's, you were looking at Gene Chandler's corn roast or something.
Oh, no, that wasn't that. No, I had nothing to do with that.
Okay, so it was something else. You had protested. You had said, Gary, go up and read this.
Yeah.
And you went up to the other mic and did it. And I got up and I really didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I says, representative from where and whatever he said.
Really?
And even though we were protesting, I think against the speaker, he started laughing and let me get away with it.
You can get away with a lot if you can make people laugh.
You wouldn't believe what you can say to people as long as they think you're being funny.
Right, exactly.
But
Gene is a good spirited guy.
He is a decent guy. He's fun.
Yeah.
And if you're not on his bad side, I remember when I filed the bill of address to have Vetter removed.
Yeah.
He wouldn't. He couldn't talk to me after that for a while. He was so pissed.
What was that?
That was Wayne Vetter was director of Fish and Game.
Mm-hmm. He's the former county sheriff from Merrimack County.
And that's Rockingham.
Rockingham County. Rockingham County. And then he was appointed as the Fish and Game director. And there were some irregularities, and Gary's committee looked into it, and they filed a bill of address, which, with the concurrence of the Senate and the House and the governor, that person could be removed from office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was so Gene Chandler came to me and basically asked me not to do it.
Really?
Yeah, and his legal staff, what's her name?
She's in Merrimack County.
Yeah, she lied to me trying to convince me not to sign off on the bill of address. But I signed off on it anyway because I realized she was full of crap.
Yeah.
Ahead of time. So anyway, basically what it was is he was sexually harassing the secretaries that worked in the office. He was using his position to do things he really shouldn't have been doing. He was threatening people that he was going to, get revenge on them because they had. It all started when I think his main law enforcement officer basically did something with his dock or something, like backfilled or something like that. I forget what the circumstances were. But somebody in that office cooperated with the Attorney General's office, and he ended up getting in trouble. And then Wayne Vedder went to one of his staff meetings and said, if I find out who cooperated with the AG's office, I'm going to get you. And that people knew that he was vindictive enough to actually do that. In fact, he tried to do that. And because of the nature of Concord, he was brought up on charges before the Executive Council and Gene Shaheen, but they just gave him a 3-month vacation.
Really?
Paid vacation.
Yeah.
Paid vacation.
Wow.
And that's, and so so I looked into it and filed, me and Russ Albert
Yes.
signed off on it with me because he's he's great, And so we filed a bill of address to have him removed.
Yeah.
And rather than that actually be set up in a committee, if you know anything about the Concord or our state government, one of the unique factors is that the speaker can't pocket veto a bill. If you get elected and you introduce legislation, under the rules it has to go to a committee and it has to be brought to the House.
Okay.
We're the only house in the United States that every bill filed by every member has to go to the floor.
That's why they hear about these crazy bills or something like that.
Right.
Say, oh, what the heck is that going on in New Hampshire? That's because we let anything in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Interesting.
Except that bill.
Really?
That bill never got a hearing. It never was appointed to a committee. A committee was never formed to hear it. It was killed the following year, laid on the table and killed the following year.
Well, the speaker has the ability not to report it to a committee, and he has the ability on when to put it on the docket, but it has to meet the floor of the House somewhere. And of course, the speaker can tell the floor which way he wants it to go.
So theoretically, you can't pocket veto, but it has happened.
There's a way around it.
There's a way around it. And I've never seen it done since or before, as far as I know. But that was that was in 2002.
2001.
Three. No, it wasn't my first term. It was second term.
2003.
But he ended up resigning before anything happened. Anyway.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. So that worked out good. But yeah, I wicked made him mad on that one. He was wicked pissed for a long time. He couldn't talk to me for a month, and then it was barely after that. Once in a while. Whatever.
Well, you can't please everybody.
Now tell him some of the stuff you've done over the years to.
I was baptized by fire. In my first term, I was on the committee to impeach the Chief Justice of New Hampshire, the first time in over 170 years, and we had to reinvent the wheel, but there was no holding back. And some of my Democrat colleagues in the beginning, they were very protective of the judicial branch, and so am I. But it came out that the
now,
Chief Justice,
what was that over?
Well, it was over several things, and it turns out that there had been a state of war between the legislative branch and the judicial branch, and the judiciary at the time was very secretive. They were actually horse trading on who would sit on what cases and how a case would be decided. And the judiciary is not supposed to do that.
No.
So let's say the Claremont decision, the first Claremont decision that came out, that was a 3-1 decision. But one judge sat by designation. And who picked that judge? the chief judge picked that judge because he knew that judge out of retirement would go in favor of him. Otherwise, it would have been 2-2, a hung decision.
Right.
And the lower court would stand and it would be undisturbed. We wouldn't have Claremont. But that was just the beginning, and it turned out that they were doing it on cases that involved former Judge Thayer's divorce case, that he did not want a particular judge to sit on the case, and the Chief Justice had a deal with him about who would sit on the case, and he would vote a certain way on another case. And it had gone a long time, and it turned out that 10 years before we found out about it, that there were some cases that were taken care of, like some third world country, in the back room.
Wow.
And the subpoena that had issued for those cases to come to the legislature to be opened up was quashed by the speaker changing one vote by replacing the person who signed the subpoena. You need a majority to sign the subpoena. And once they achieved the majority, the Speaker of the House changed that person on the committee so that person couldn't sign the subpoena and appointed a person that would not sign the subpoena. So it was covered up for another 10 years,
Right.
until we got a hold of it. But today's judiciary is not your granddaddy's judicial branch. We've come a long way, and we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare when I first came to the legislature. I had no idea. I was a baby in the woods.
Yep.
It was a terrible, terrible system. But it's better now. It's slowly improving, but getting better.
Yeah, it seems like it's getting better. I think we still have a lot of problems in the family court.
Oh, yes.
The Chief Justice is there today, because I don't know if you know, but I'm now, after Gene Shaheen, right? Gene Chandler kicked me, Bill O'Brien kicked me off of my chairmanship. I went over to Judiciary.
Well, I don't understand how would Bill O'Brien have anything to do with it?
This is last term.
Oh, last term, right.
So I stayed on Judiciary, and so I was had orientation today. So we had the Chief Justice and all.
Linda Delanus has
Yeah.
done a lot to bring the judicial branch closer to the legislative branch.
Is she the current Chief Justice?
She's
she
the
is,
current
yeah.
CJ for the Supreme Court.
Okay.
We have Chief Justice of the Superior Courts, and we have Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And Linda Delanus is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And she's worked her way up, and she's a very reliable and consistent lady, good legal scholar, in my opinion. And she does dissent when her conscience does not agree with the majority. That's good. That's very healthy.
Well, that's actually really what you want. You really don't. It really is not important if everybody's perfect. The only thing that's really important is that they're all honest.
That's most
You know what I
important.
mean? Really. Because a bad decision can happen once in a while because they're human beings, but dishonesty is so corrupting that it's got to be uprooted. And it sounds like you guys did a lot towards that end.
Yeah, but we have a long way to go, Gary. As you said, back then we did have some dishonesty, but now the worst enemy of the people, the worst corrupting factor in the judicial branch is political correctness, and people don't care. What goes on in the family courts is unspeakable. It's awful. People's families are uprooted, relationships are destroyed, property is minimized, and the judges rarely see. Nobody wants to be on the family court.
No.
And the marital masters are being phased out because everybody's had enough of them.
That's one of the comments that was made today in the Judiciary Committee, was that the judges get burnt out on family court. Nobody they have a lot of part-time judges and things like that, but they used to hire judges for this court or that court or this court, and trying to get somebody to even sit in a family court is really difficult because nobody wants to do it.
Right.
Criminal cases are okay,
Yeah.
and all these other are okay, but family court is, I guess, the worst possible
Well,
situation.
family
really.
court, it's so emotional, and you're talking about people's families, children, spouses, and also their property, and people take it to heart. So the statistics show that the most judicial complaints and the most professional conduct complaints against lawyers and the most lawsuits against lawyers all arise in family court arena. People hate each other, and they end up hating their own lawyer, and they hate the judge. And the bottom line is, most of the time, is the best decision is one that with which nobody is happy. But right now, we are suffering quite badly that people are not paying attention to the family courts. Nobody wants to, no judge, no constitutional or statutory officer wants to sit on them. And you have the marital masters. And this business of part-time judges is a fiction. Once somebody gets appointed as a part-time judge, they will go to what we call have gavel, will travel system. And as one judge told me, depends on who prostrates himself best before the administrative judge of the district courts, which is now the circuit court, or as one judge told me, the circus courts. Then they go and ride the circuit around, sit in Nashville, Salem, Manchester. So they do get a full paycheck, but not benefits. They don't do any lawyering anymore.
Yeah.
And New Hampshire has had a long tradition of part-time judges. That way they wouldn't get burnt out, and they would sit on family cases. Now we don't. You get a robe and you get a gavel, and we'll travel.
I'd do it.
It's and the worst part of it is, Gary.
Well, the thing is I really like just hanging out in my robe at home.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
Yeah, that's true. A robe, maybe some slippers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fuzzy slippers. If I showed up with a robe and fuzzy slippers, I can't do that at the legislature. I got to wear a tie.
I know they make us wear a tie, and I
hate
got away
wearing a tie.
a couple of years when I had a tracheotomy. They would let me wear one of those clerical collars, so I got away with it
Yeah.
without a tie. And Mr. O'Brien would make sure that I put on a tie when I went down there, and my wheelchair actually touched my chair before I could vote, with my cane reaching over the chair.
Oh, yeah, you were rough shape for getting the last term.
Yes.
You're doing good now.
I'm still above ground, so that's a
right.
good thing.
That's right.
I heard you say marital masters being phased out. What
Yes.
what is that? What is that component of it?
Marital masters, the federal government back in the 80s tried to lubricate the completion or
When the federal
disposition.
government's lubricating, they just talk about Vaseline. But
Right.
Right.
Tried to get rid of the dockets that had backed up in family law courts all over the states.
Yeah.
And as long as you didn't have a judge involved, you would get a grant. And it's like throwing a little bit of crack at a junkie, and the states get hooked on it, and then the federal government says, no, you're on your own now. So New Hampshire created this business of marital masters. These are baby judges, not judges, but they would sit on a 5-year or a 10-year commission, but nobody ever not got renewed. That's the way the system works in New Hampshire.
they didn't necessarily have to be lawyers, and they didn't have to necessarily have the qualifications of a judge.
Actually,
Yet
I
they
would have
almost
been.
had,
There were very few that could actually read and write. I would be.
So I
very
am
surprised.
qualified to be a marital master, but maybe not a
No,
judge.
no, you're overqualified. You can actually read and write. And these marital masters would hear the case just like a judge, would wear a robe. They're not judges, so the state would get the federal money, and then they would make a decision, and it would be signed by a judge. And one of the things that we found out in Judiciary Committee is one judge showed up, and we asked him, how many marital master opinions did you sign today? He said, well, this week it's 97. How could you have read, and it was only on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
You can't read 97 decisions and sign off on them and have a full caseload yourself. So it was just a rubber stamp that they did. And Marital Masters made the decisions. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. And, well, majority of them are not so good. Up in Merrimack County, any friend of mine who was thinking about getting a lawyer to be divorced, a male, I would tell him, you don't need a good lawyer, you need a good surgeon. I said, why? I said, well, you need to get a sex change operation. If you're in Merrimack County, we got these marital masters that just don't like guys. And you're all done. Just might as well get a sex change operation and have...
Yeah, tell them well, I think you could do that, or maybe if you could convince the reason you're getting divorced is because you've had a change of heart, you like guys, maybe they'd be more sympathetic or something.
That might work. But if you're still guy, you got a problem.
Well, that way you don't have the commitment of actually a sex change. You could just show up
in drag.
Show up
maybe.
in drag,
Yeah.
or holding hands with somebody,
Yeah,
or something like that.
if you show up in drag, you'd probably do much better.
Yeah.
Than you can pay a lawyer, the best lawyers in marital cases. It wouldn't make any difference. If you're a guy, you're going to be blued and tattooed, my friend. You're going to have
You left
problems.
a word out of that.
Yes,
Yeah,
one word
yeah.
I left out intentionally.
Yeah.
This is a family thing.
Yeah,
you know?
it is, yeah.
We don't want to blow up a grenade.
No,
No,
not even though this is a kinder, gentler grenade.
Yeah. More humane.
It is.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
But it's atrocious. All these folks that go to marital court, it's terrible.
Well, the thing
They're
is, marriage
politically-
itself is so destructive. Okay, because people, every time I talk about marriage to people, because you're aware of this more than most, but you talk to people about marriage and they'll say, well, is it better for the kids if two people are not getting along to stay together? So their obvious choices: get a divorce or have these children be brought up in a unpleasant environment. When they don't give you the third option, is get help.
Work it out. Yeah.
Work it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you got to be closer to the microphone, Tony.
Yeah, I understand. You know
And,
what?
and it's just that it's divorce rate we have is just destroying our children.
It's astronomical, and there is no requirement. Back in the 70s, the introduction of no-fault divorce and no requirement of counseling or trying to reconcile, it's destroyed any initiative or any notion of anyone want to get help to keep their marriage. There is no reason for it. If you're going through a midlife crisis and you want to get pretty, and I see this all the time.
I always feel like I want to get prettier too.
Yeah,
Wear an earring, buy a sports car.
Something like
All
that.
that, all
I
that
can
that
get
goes
you
with it.
some nip and tuck, and you'll be amazed how many women and men go through these insertion of something on their buttocks. And their
That
lips
doesn't sound
and
so
their-
good. I don't know about that.
Oh no, they come out looking like a 67 Edsel done over to look like a 96 Mustang. Oh wow! Life is good, so get a divorce and
Yeah.
get rocking and rolling. What's the incentive of getting married? One thing I don't understand though, Gary, when somebody gets divorced, they say, "I'm sorry." Well, why are you sorry? The number of good marriages that ended up in divorce is zero. I mean, Stevie Wonder has shot more pigeons than the number of the good marriages that have ended up in divorce. If you're not getting along, you got really two options. You got to get help counseling, and I think everybody owes it to themselves, to the vow that they took,
Well, who
To the
they,
kids.
to the children.
who they really owe it to is the kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you've got kids and you didn't try your best to work it out, you're letting them down big time.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And the divorce is supposed to be the sour medicine.
Right, the last straw.
Exactly. It's not supposed to be something that you pick off the shelf as it is now in our family court system. You don't need the common law is gone. You can be divorced in a matter of 45 days, 60 days.
Yep.
Just go in, sign some papers, have a nice day. You don't even have to show up anymore.
Yep.
Done and over with. Okay, bye-bye.
Right.
Go away. Some of the things that go on are very disturbing. And the legislature takes a big fault on this. You know what the minimum mandatory sentence for murder is in New Hampshire?
No.
None. There is none.
There's no minimum mandatory for murder?
None. No. There are very few cases where there's a minimum mandatory. Only politically correct offenses.
Oh, okay. The ones that have high profile crap.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Like, and we had what this so-called prosecutorial discretion or resource allocation discretion. Law enforcement agencies and prosecutors could make a decision that this case is garbage, this case goes forward.
Right.
But now with the politically correct stuff, nobody wants to touch them. They're the third rail of the judicial branch. Like anything that has to do with domestic relations, somebody has to get arrested. Some prosecutors arrest the husband, the wife, and the kids and everybody and let God sort them out.
Right.
I never did that as a prosecutor. It's bizarre. I don't know how a prosecutor can do it. But,
Some of those babies, though, they should be arrested, though.
yeah, some of the infants especially.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of them aren't as cute as the others. You
Yes.
know? So, you got to do what you got to do.
We have to carry new equipment in police cruisers now. We actually have juvenile handcuffs.
That's
They're
good.
Very
yes.
small bracelets because the adult ones, they come off the kids.
Yeah. You don't want a baby crawling around the police car.
No.
It's not safe.
You got to
For
double
anybody.
handcuff them, double lock them, make sure they're handcuffed in the back, and give them take away their pacifier in case that you don't want them spitting at you, because spitting is now a felony, as you know.
It is.
The legislature is gone berserk. So anything to do with domestic relations, if a person is high profile, if a person or anything to do with alcohol, I by no means condone DWI. It's a terrible offense. It's caused a lot of deaths, but there is a limit to everything. And judges are so afraid of finding someone not guilty, and the prosecutors are so afraid of not proceeding, even on a garbage case. And I've seen garbage cases go forward in New
What do you mean,
Hampshire.
example?
Like
Not a specific case, but give me an example. What do
okay,
you
a
mean?
person the police officer observed no bad operation, no swerving, nothing, and the guy is pulls up and Cumberland Farms is closed. This is a real case. Cumberland Farms is closed, and he sleeps in his car. And a few hours later, a cruiser comes up, knocks on the guy's door, and says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "Well, I'm waiting for them to open. I want to get some coffee." And he blows an 05. He tells the guy, "Well, I showed up here 2 hours ago." The cop surmises, or the police officer surmises, that's what they teach you in the academy, that your body can get rid of about 0.02 every 2 hours or so. So you must be close to 0.08 at the time that he pulled up. But you don't know where you are in the curve, if you're going up or you're going down. Now, in New Hampshire, they prosecuted that case, and it was, of course, and it took a lot of work to get this man found not guilty. In Maine, on the other hand, they arrest the guy, and he's driving. He doesn't turn on a blinker, and he blows an 07. I call the prosecutor and I say, "This is garbage. It's not going to be found guilty." Prosecutor says, "Yeah, you're right, and I don't want to spend the money on this. Gone, done, over with. No harm, no foul. There was nobody injured, nobody." And this poor guy was trying to get his daughter to the hospital. That's the only reason he was driving at '07.
Right.
And '07,
What is it? The number that you have to be at to be considered drunk or
'08
impaired?
is prima facie. On its face, there's a rebuttable presumption and '08 that you are under the influence.
Right. So 07, you're legal anyway.
You're legal, plus the error rate. If you're, there's a 50% possibility that you could be 725 or 675.
Right.
So, for example, in New Hampshire, if you blow it '08 exactly, you can't lose your license because the law requires that you be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and there's a 50-50 chance that you are below '08 rather
Right.
than above '08.
Gotcha.
So you have to be outside that margin of error.
Right.
Okay.
You have to be above the error
So if you're a
ratio.
9.0, then you're done.
Yeah,
I mean 0.9.
.09.
0.09, I mean.
Yeah, you're pretty
Well,
done.
9.0, you're probably dead. Huh?
Right. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. That's alcohol
point
poisoning.
two-
Yeah.
2-3 is supposed to be comatose.
Really.
But I have arrested 2-3s that were really good drunks. These guys had grown immunity, and
Yeah.
it was barely detectable. When I was a policeman, these guys,
I got
was
pulled over.
amazed.
I got pulled over in Goffstown for swerving. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Huh.
Cop pulls me over, says, "You know why I pulled yours?" No, not really. Well, we've got reports that you were swerving as you were driving down the road. Oh, what? You know what it was? I was wrestling with my grandson while I was driving.
Oh, good. As long as you weren't doing anything dangerous.
No,
yeah.
no,
That's
no.
good. Yeah.
But I'm like tickling him and stuff and fighting with him.
That's another thing I don't understand. I mean, police officers, I was a police officer. I love police officers. I think they're good public servants. Prosecutors, they're generally good people. But this politically correctness has to just go away. It was back in the 80s when we changed our system to the humanist approach. You don't, when you come up to the car, you're not supposed to draw a battle line. Do you know why I'm stopping you? That's a challenge. So you're supposed to say, "Good evening, sir." It's actually in the standard operating procedures for Manchester Police Department, for state police. It says that this is how we stop cars. A greeting with an identification and a reason for the stop. "Good evening, sir. I'm Officer Soltani from New Hampshire State Police. I'm stopping you for speeding. Could I see your license and registration, please?" That way, they feel more comfortable talking to you. And they think they have to do this gig of, "Look, you know why I'm stopping you?" So that you incriminate yourself. On a garbage stop like a speed, if you don't have enough evidence to convict, why are you pulling the guy over? Right. Now, in your case, Gary, you're the definition of probable cause. I can understand that. They gotta pull you over.
Because I'm Irish?
No, it's just you're Gary.
Yeah.
I mean, the definition of a probable cause is a state house license plate going up toward Concord. You gotta stop that guy.
Right, exactly.
Like Roy Rogers says, no man's property or liberty is safe as long as the legislature is in session.
Yeah.
So if you're going toward Concord, they have to stop you. I understand that, but
I actually said that to somebody. I didn't say it quite that eloquently, but it was somebody says it was like during the summer and the fall. Says, "Oh, you guys don't meet in the fall?" I says, "No." "Well, you should be up there doing something." I says, "The less we do, the safer you are."
Right.
yes, it's fun. It's a fun world up there. I'm glad I'm not there anymore, but who knows? Maybe later, in
Maybe
a
you'll
later
come back.
capacity. I don't know if I want to go back to the house, Gary.
Go to the Senate. Then you can really aggravate people.
Yeah, I can annoy people in the Senate. Yeah, I'm good at annoying people.
Yes, but you do it so effectively.
Well, for some reason in the past 23 years, they've called me the judge hunter, and then they called me the cop hunter. And the truth is, I just don't have any patience for public servants, be they in a robe or a uniform, that abuse their office.
Right.
One of the Ware's best people, not people, one of the Ware's police officers put it best, that Tony is a good cop's best friend and a bad cop's worst nightmare.
Right.
And that's how I like to view myself. I'm a good judge's best friend and a bad judge's worst nightmare. Goes with same. I'm responsible for terminating most number of bad cops in the state
Really?
than any other lawyer in the state. But I have also never lost any case against a good cop. Never, when I defend the cop, he or she is honest, and there's something going on underneath. In one case, we had a poor sergeant being set up.
Yeah.
And after it was all done and over with, he was the last guy standing. After this, all the dirt came out, turned out that it was a setup job. He was the only, the rest of them were dirty, and the others were decertified. They couldn't be police officers in the state as long as they lived. And this guy was the only police officer left in that town.
Wow.
Because he was honest. So people like that, I have a lot of respect for.
Well, it's the same thing in Concord. You know, as far as I'm concerned, you know what a rhino is,
Oh yeah, Republican in name only.
right? Well, Tony and I are repos,
Yeah. Repos. Yeah.
Republican in principle only,
Yeah. I like that.
right?
That's right.
Because I'm the same way. It's like when I filed the bill of address against Wayne Vetter, I had nothing against Wayne Vetter. I don't hardly know the guy.
Right.
I had nothing against Gene Chandler. It had nothing to do with it. It had everything to do with the behavior.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think we should stand for that, especially when we're paying somebody so much money to be the head of an agency. We should be reasonably expect a certain level of good behavior or
Decency.
decency,
Integrity and all that.
integrity. And so if they can't meet that, well, then they shouldn't be there, period.
Well, I have to say, Gene has come around quite a bit, and he would take it more personally in the past. But I have gone up in matters that involve Gene and his friends, and I told him how I feel and where I'm going to be. And Gene says, I understand. He's gotten better now.
Yeah.
In the olden days, he expected the good old boy system to work, but he's gotten much better. Mr. O'Brien, on the other hand, I have no tolerance for at all. I think he was on a cancer on the face of the legislature.
Wow.
And the back seat that he's sitting, he's soiling it. He should be just gotten rid of.
Can you say that in a
Milder way, or
Those are some strong words.
I was gonna say more direct way, so I get what you mean.
Yeah, be blunt. Tell us how you really feel, because there's too much ambiguity here. What are you really
Beating around the
saying?
bush. I'm really not that sharp, Tony.
he takes this
Cancer
for a
thing could
bunch
go
of
either way. I
hayseed.
mean, yeah.
The cancer on the face of the legislature can only be removed by a scalpel. It can't go any other way. If you leave it there, it will spread and it'll eat away the face of the whole legislature, and it's gone. But this fellow,
you're saying that
So you don't care for him? Is that?
no, I think he's a very unprincipled and a dishonest man.
so.
Wow.
Wait, so you're saying that Speaker O'Brien is like the Ebola of the New Hampshire legislator?
He's the Ebola of humanity.
Wow. Wow.
Wow, that's like a step up from there.
Now, you don't have him rebooked, right, Speaker O'Brien? Because he was on
Apparently,
once. But
no, I probably not after this.
No.
Well, I should give him a rebuttal.
yes.
And he can call Tony the
You know, I was
Equal time,
Gary.
yes.
I was going door to door for the Republican Party when I was 16 years old, still ineligible to vote. Here's this guy moves up here 6 years or 8 years before he runs for speaker or becomes speaker, while he has contributed to John Kerry and Mary Landrieu and every other Democrat from here to Louisiana and back and sideways out to California, and he wants to reform my Republican Party and tear it apart the way he did, so we got the shellacking that we did. We deserved it. He earned it for us. I don't blame him.
You know,
I don't blame the
I
people.
don't know CPR, so if you're gonna get a little,
No, I'm not excited.
I
don't
ain't
get
giving you.
excited.
I'm not doing mouth to
I'm
mouth.
very,
I'm just letting you know right now.
I'm a kinder, gentler Tony now. I'm chill. I'm out of the house. I don't have to deal. I don't have to remove cancers. I just write little
Letters.
motions and things. I do subpoenas and motions and petitions and talk to people and cross-examine them. It's fun. I don't have to do that. And Mr. O'Brien is now, from what I understand, he's sitting between a great column and another chair. So it's pretty close to where he had me when I had a broken pelvis. The only man since in the 20th century that did not get any kind of accommodation for a legitimate, established, medically proven walking disability. I'm in a wheelchair and I gotta crawl 3 seats.
Right. I remember.
You're looking at him.
Wow.
The only man in the 20, and you remember how many times I rolled down. I wanted to get up, so I would not want to show weakness to that man.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do the parade walk, but I would roll down.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I couldn't walk too well, but I'm doing much better by the grace of the Lord, and I'm happy I'm on the right side of the grass.
All right, so here's a hypothetical. Suppose Bill O'Brien's on fire, and you're holding a bucket of water. What do you do?
The Christian thing to do is to put the fire out, but then again, water is rather expensive.
Well, that's true.
So I try to save as much water as possible.
And we've had a drought.
It's been
maybe not in this part of the country, but somewhere. So you got to consider that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would put out the fire perhaps by dampening some cloth and putting it around him.
Yes. You want to take your time and do
Or
it
you
right.
could wait till the fire's over, so you don't waste so much water.
Right.
Or you'd roll them on the ground first,
Yeah.
and then see if I need any water.
Roll them or kick them.
Kick would do. just
That way, you
fine.
don't, because you don't want to
We're
jeopardize.
it's like you're trying to stamp out the fire. You know,
Oh, yeah, that would be good if you have
Yeah.
a couple of people. Then you can actually jump up and down on it.
Right.
The
yes.
fire would go out.
That might work. Yeah, that might work. I mean, I don't know if it's ever been tried, but
Well, we can try it on him.
right.
He
Exactly.
tried it on us.
Well, there you go.
He tried it on me. He
Right.
thought, he's faking it on the wheelchair. I'll just drag him around.
Wow.
Tony, I love you.
I love you, brother. Remember when Steve Valancourt on the floor of the house says, Tony, I love you. And I was on the other side, and I said, I love you too, Steve-O. O'Brien is over there. Order! We're having fun. Get over it, Bill.
Wow, you're too funny. So what do you think about? Oh yeah, I get your opinion because you're a pro Second Amendment guy. What do you think about the fact that we're talking about gun control? Now the kids. First of all, there's some weird stuff down there. You probably know more about this than I do because you know. But the shooting down in Connecticut.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, when they first reported that, they said he only used handguns, and they recovered an AR-15 from the back of his car. Then they said the children were all shot with an AR-15.
Yes. Then
Is that typical of a initial police reaction to something?
no, it's very unusual to release the detail of
At
the
all.
weapon used. And it was within hours that was on the radio and on the television that they identified it was he had a Glock and a he had
Sig Sauer.
a Sig Sauer and a Glock.
Yeah.
And later, much later, the question of an AR-15 came about. And you got to realize they talk about assault weapons. There's no such thing.
Right.
There's no such thing as an assault weapon. A weapon is intended to commit an assault. So every weapon is an assault weapon, including the screwdriver that I put into my ear.
What about that?
That's a nice assault weapon.
Thank you.
That's a beauty of one.
That's a beautiful assault weapon.
That's a thing of beauty, my man. But then again, under federal law, a fully automatic weapon is not allowed anyway. So the AR-15, be it an AR-15 or a Remington hunting weapon, it's a semi-automatic. It goes bang, 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 bang. It's not brrr. That's illegal. You can't have it. And all those weapons, it doesn't matter if it's AR-15. The AR-15 is less accurate than the 6 Hour. Its muzzle is longer.
Well, I don't think you're correct on that, but
Well, I can. Depends who's shooting it. If
Yeah.
you're shooting the AR-15 and I got the 6 Hour, I can put you away any day of the week and twice on Sunday.
you're making fun of the fact that I'm blind.
No, I'm
No,
making fun of the
no,
fact
no.
that I can shoot better than you. I'm a firearm instructor in 5 disciplines. I've been doing it for 25 years.
Nothing
Right.
to do with your vision.
But
That's a hate crime, I
the
think.
whole. I mean, have you ever heard of a love crime? What's a love crime? I don't get
I've
it.
heard of a crime of passion, but that's probably something
No,
different.
Wait, no.
Passion could go either way.
No,
Passion
no.
could be
You know what? Hey,
negative
no.
passion or positive passion.
You know those fuzzy handcuffs?
Oh yes,
That's
yes.
love crime.
That's a love crime.
Oh,
That's a love
yeah.
I don't
Need
think
some
that
Barry
would
White.
fly.
No.
No, I don't think so. I think crime is a crime, no matter
Yeah.
what how you look at it. But Connecticut has strict weapon laws anyway, firearm laws anyway.
Yeah, they already actually have an assault weapons ban.
Right,
They call it.
so-called assault weapons ban.
So
And
therefore, they've already made it illegal. So now we got to make it more illegal.
Extra illegal.
Extra
Yeah.
illegal, and that wouldn't have happened.
and the ownership was by the
His mother.
person who was killed, the mother. And Connecticut has a similar law to New Hampshire about storage, proper storage. She was not supposed to have granted access or allowed access to the son who caused all the mayhem. And after making all those laws, it happened in Connecticut.
Yeah. Well, I was actually talking to Lars Christensen today. You know Lars. We go back.
Oh,
a
of
ways.
course I know
Lars is an
Lars.
awesome guy, and he was going over the fact that I think the kid was on Paxil or something like that. He was on medication for
If he had taken this medication, he'd probably be better off.
I don't know. But a lot of the times, the kids on the medications are the ones that are actually doing the shooting.
What is broken, honestly, Gary, in New Hampshire as well as in Connecticut, is not our gun laws, is the mental health system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our
agree
mental
with that.
health system is in its infancy. I don't care what kind of insurance you have, how much money you pay. The science of mental health care is in its infancy, and it's still taboo. We don't want to talk about it. A fellow has cancer. A fellow has diabetes. We raise funds. We go out there. We help out. But how many organizations have you heard of that deal with mental health?
Right. Well,
There's only one.
well, see, I told Santorum, Rick Santorum, I supported him for president,
Yeah.
and I was telling him, I think I was telling him that, about what we do with the mentally ill in New Hampshire. And in most places, they wander the streets. And in New Hampshire, we put a suit and tie on them and put them in the New Hampshire legislature.
Well, this is our answer to.
So that's why they make you wear the tie.
That's right.
So
Right.
we
Well,
can
well,
identify
see-
you, yeah.
Hey, wait. I only got 5 minutes. I want to get to something quick.
No, I want to tell you something real quick.
Okay, real
There
quick.
is an inverse relationship between the severity of gun control laws and the crime rate per thousand. So the ones that have, Vermont has the least severe laws, the least restrictive laws. They are the safest state in the union
Yeah.
for property crimes and personal crime. New Hampshire is number 2. New Hampshire is also number 2 in property crimes
Right.
and personal crimes.
An armed society is a polite society.
DC is the most restrictive, and they are the murder capital of the United
Yeah,
States.
Chicago has some of the strictest gun control. They broke 500 people murdered in Chicago last
Oh,
year.
good Lord.
Okay, so can we get that?
Yeah.
Can we get that online?
Johnny, if we can put this on, thank you very much.
So anyway, this is the deal with this. This is a lady. Her name is Carolyn Gudger from Sullivan Central High in Tennessee. She actually stopped a guy who was a little bit nuts. They're all nuts. Going into the school. She was a what do you call an officer that's in the school?
Resource officer.
Resource officer. And she saved the principal and tried to get the guy to get his gun down. And eventually, some other cops showed up in support, and the nutcase ended up dead. But guess what? You never heard of her.
That's right.
Well,
You're
God
right.
bless her. We need more people like this
That's
lady.
exactly it. But
a hero.
she is a hero. But the cool thing is, nobody's ever heard of her because no kids died, so it wasn't worthwhile for the national press to actually cover it.
Doesn't fit the
If
narrative.
they had covered stuff like this, those type of incidents would go down.
Yes.
But they don't want to cover that because they want gun control.
I believe in that. I believe that if they covered this, they gave this some coverage, then there would be more copycats of this. And the one of the school districts that had prepared a video, instructive video on what to do if the school is invaded, and it was an aggressive one, fight for your life.
Right.
And it was adopted by many school districts, and the school district lifted its copyright. They said copy it and watch it everywhere in the United States.
Yep.
And this lady is the perfect example of it.
And even better than that, than the fact that she saved lives, I think if you checked, I almost got 30,000. That's all right, it's too late.
Yeah, it was over 30,000 shares. Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, on Facebook, you make a picture, and people, if they like it, they share it.
Yes, I shared her.
Right. So I the most I've ever gotten is maybe, I think, 200 and something shares on a poster I've made.
Yeah.
This one I got over 30,000.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll see you
Good
next
work.
week. Oh, next week is Charlene is coming on because I'm going to be having an eye operation. I got a corneal transplant. So Charlene's coming on with her guest. It should be-
Charlene Craig?
Yeah.
Okay.
It should be crazy. Matt will still be here holding down the fort, but if he can keep control of the ladies,
Yeah, we'll see. It's
we'll
a good
see.
challenge.
We'll see. See you later. Thank
everybody.
you very much, Tony. You're all right.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.